Imagine a magnificent vineyard where the true owner is mistaken for a laborer, leading to a stunning downfall for the one who dared to disrespect her. Stay with me, because you're going to love how this one ends. Meet Adara Vance, a child of the soil whose hands knew the earth intimately. Inside a rustic shed, she meticulously examined soil samples, her fingers stained with the rich, dark loam. Adara wasn't loud about her wisdom. Her true power lay in her profound understanding of the land, passed down through generations, not in outward displays of status or wealth. She believed the vineyard spoke to her, and she listened. Adara walked through the grand, yet slightly weathered main house of Vance Vineyard, pausing at a faded portrait of her grandfather, Adara Vance. He had envisioned this place not just as a business, but a living legacy, a testament to enduring quality and respect for nature. Adara, a man of quiet foresight, had carefully structured a complex trust, ensuring the vineyard's future would ultimately rest firmly in Adara's capable hands. His wisdom was a seed, waiting for its season to sprout. The vineyard, however, had recently faced financial headwinds. That's when Chef Antoine Dubois arrived. A luxury car crunched gravel, and Antoine stepped out, impeccably dressed, surveying the ancient vines with a critical, almost disdainful eye. He introduced himself to the vineyard manager, not Adara, boasting of his Michelin stars and his plans to elevate Vance Vineyard's culinary scene. Arrogance, like a poorly chosen vine, was already beginning to choke the air. The management firm, brought in to stabilize the vineyard's finances and completely unaware of Adara's impending full control, had hired Antoine purely for his reputation. They saw dollar signs and prestige, not the soul of the land. Miles away, in a corporate office, Adara's legal representative, Mr. Davies, quietly reviewed documents, the papers that would soon transition full power to Ms. Vance. The stage was set for a clash of worlds. A few days after his grand arrival, Chef Antoine Dubois embarked on what he considered his, quote, visionary tour of Vance Vineyard. He strode through the sprawling grounds, impeccably dressed even amidst the dust and dirt, gesturing wildly as he pontificated on menu ideas. Imagine, he declared to a bewildered junior manager, a saffron-infused grape reduction, a culinary symphony echoing the very terroir of this place. He spoke of presentation and gastronomic elevation, utterly oblivious to the actual work, the calloused hands, and the meticulous care that truly nurtured the vines. His eyes, however, snagged on a figure in the distance, Adara Vance. Dressed in practical work clothes, hands stained with earth, she expertly pruned a row of old vines, her movements precise and deliberate. Antoine merely scoffed, a dismissive glance that swept over her as if she were just another piece of the scenery, a common field hand beneath his notice. He had no idea the hands he dismissed were the very ones that held the keys to his future. It was late afternoon in the vineyard's great pressing area, the air thick with the sweet scent of crushed fruit. Antoine, in a sudden pick of inspiration for an experimental dish, needed a specific varietal of grape. He spotted Adara, still in her work clothes, overseeing a team. His face, usually a mask of self-importance, contorted into an imperious sneer. "You there," he barked, not even bothering to learn her name. "Fetch me a basket of those Grenache grapes, the ones from the western slope. And be quick about it. My culinary genius waits for no one." Adara turned, her gaze steady, unflinching. "Those Grenache vines are still too young for optimal flavor. The older Mourvedre from the North Block would offer a far richer profile for a reduction," she replied, her voice calm and factual. Antoine scoffed, rolling his eyes. "Don't tell me about flavor, girl. Just fetch the grapes I asked for. Stick to what you know." He didn't realize she knew the land, the grapes, and his own superficiality better than he knew himself. Back in her small, organized office within the old house, surrounded by well-worn books and research papers, Adara Vance sat, a pen in hand. The encounter with Antoine had left her with a quiet resolve. She wasn't angry in the way Antoine might expect. She was analytical. She reviewed financial reports, cross-referencing them with notes on Antoine's previous ventures. His patterns emerged: flashy launches, inflated costs, and a consistent disregard for local expertise. Adara saw his arrogance not as a personal affront, but as a fatal flaw, a gaping weakness in his armor. He saw only appearances, while she saw the truth of the soil. She began to formulate a plan, not for petty revenge, but for the vineyard's future, a future where respect for the land and its people was paramount. Her quiet strength was her strategy, her silence her greatest power. Antoine's innovations quickly began to transform the vineyard's main restaurant kitchen into a bustling, yet chaotic, arena. He introduced flashy, exorbitantly expensive ingredients, flown in from distant lands, that clashed jarringly with the vineyard's rustic charm and commitment to sustainability. This local produce? Preposterous. We need Siberian sturgeon, Himalayan pink salt, a true global palate. He'd bark, dismissing the fresh, vibrant produce from the very soil he was supposed to honor. He barked orders at his new, hand-picked staff, criticizing the traditional recipes that had been cornerstones of Adara Vance's vision. Modernity, my friends! Not quaint, outdated, heritage, he'd sneer. Tearing down the very foundation of the vineyard's culinary soul, his leadership wasn't just disruptive, it was destructive. A cacophony of misplaced ambition that threatened to drown out the quiet wisdom of generations. As dusk settled over the vineyard, ominous clouds gathered on the horizon, mirroring the tension building within Vance Vineyard. Adara walked alone among the vines, feeling the subtle shifts in the air, the silent protest of the land against the discordant changes. Antoine was unknowingly desecrating not just a business, but a sacred legacy, the very spirit of the woman who would soon control his fate. He was building his empire on sand, while she, the quiet observer, was preparing to reclaim her birthright, deeply rooted in the earth. Adara knew she had to act, not just for herself, but for her grandfather's vision, for the integrity of the soil, and for every hand that had ever toiled honestly on this land. A storm was brewing, and Adara Vance was ready to meet it, her resolve as unyielding as the ancient roots beneath her feet. The vineyard's private cellar, cool and quiet, held the whispers of centuries of winemaking. Adara Vance moved with practiced grace among the stacked barrels, a hydrometer in hand, meticulously checking the quality of a developing vintage. Her senses were attuned to the subtle notes of the fermenting liquid, a connection deeper than any scientific measurement. The heavy oak door burst open, shattering the peaceful silence. Chef Antoine Dubois strode in, his polished shoes echoing on the stone floor, an air of impatient entitlement preceding him. "Ah, there you are," he announced, not to Adara, but to the air. He spotted her, dismissing her with a glance that barely registered her presence. "I need to taste the Grand Reserve from '98. For my new experimental dish, you understand. Something with a asterisk real story, not this common fare." He gestured vaguely at the barrels Adara had been tending. Adara calmly wiped her hands. "The '98 is exquisite, chef. Notes of black cherry and toasted almond. It would pair beautifully with a light game, perhaps duck, but its tannin structure might overpower a delicate fish." Antoine scoffed, taking the glass she offered without acknowledgement. He swirled the deep red liquid with exaggerated flair. "Duck? Fish? My dear, what would you know about haute cuisine? This is about elevation, not mere accompaniment." He took a dramatic sip, entirely missing the quiet frustration in Adara's eyes, and the knowing look she exchanged with the ancient cellar walls. Days later, the vineyard fields shimmered under the hot midday sun. Antoine, dressed in crisp whites that seemed utterly out of place, oversaw a new hand-picked crew he'd brought in, barking orders about grape selection for his revolutionary new wine pairing. Adara, meanwhile, was knee-deep in the rows, working alongside the long-term vineyard team, her hands stained with earth, her face beaded with sweat. She was inspecting a particularly stubborn patch of vines, her expertise guiding her every move. Antoine's gaze fell upon her. He pointed a dismissive finger. "You! Yes, you there, in the dirt," he called out, his voice carrying across the rows. "Stop dawdling. Go fetch water for the asterisk real workers, and quickly. Some of us actually contribute to the reputation of this establishment. Unlike, well, you know, your kind is better suited to fetching and carrying." A stunned silence fell over the other vineyard workers. their eyes flicking between Antoine's sneering face and Adara's suddenly rigid posture. Humiliation washed over Adara, but beneath it, a cold, silent fury began to simmer. To be treated this way, on land that was her very heritage, her birthright, by a man who saw nothing but the color of her skin and the dust on her clothes, the indignity was a bitter taste, far worse than any spoiled vintage. The other workers, uncomfortable, looked away, knowing full well who Adara truly was, but powerless to intervene. Adara returned to her small, personal cottage on the vineyard grounds, the midday sun still beating down, but a different kind of heat now burning inside her. Her hands, still trembling slightly from the raw shock of Antoine's public insult, splashed cool water on her face from the basin. The reflection staring back at her was not just of a woman humiliated, but of a spirit awakened. Her eyes, usually calm and thoughtful, now burned with a fierce determination. This wasn't merely about Antoine's arrogance, nor his blatant prejudice against her. This was about something far deeper. This was about Adara Vance's legacy, her grandfather's vision, a lifetime of dedication to the land and to the people who worked it with respect. Antoine had not just disrespected her, he had desecrated the very soul of the vineyard, mocking the hands that had nurtured it for generations. He had insulted every honest worker who toiled under the sun. This injustice could not stand. Later that evening, the cottage was bathed in the soft glow of a single lamp. Adara sat at her small wooden desk, a framed photograph of her grandfather Adara, looking on with a gentle, knowing smile. She pulled out her phone, her thumb hovering over a contact. There was no hesitation, no uncertainty in her movements. Her hand was steady, her resolve ironclad. She hit call. The phone rang twice before a crisp, professional voice answered. "Mr. Davies?" Adara began, her voice calm but firm, a quiet authority resonating in every word. "It's Adara Vance. The time has come. We need to finalize the transfer of ownership for Vance Vineyard and effectively address the current management situation, immediately." A subtle, almost imperceptible smile of grim satisfaction touched her lips as she listened to Mr. Davies' affirmative reply. The storm was coming, and she had just set it in motion. Meanwhile, in the vineyard restaurant, during a bustling dinner service, Chef Antoine Dubois was reveling in his own perceived glory. The room hummed with the chatter of his new, high-paying clientele and the clinking of expensive silverware. Antoine, resplendent in a pristine chef's jacket, moved from table to table, accepting compliments with a grandiose flourish. "Ah, the quail, madam, a symphony of flavors, no?" he preened, completely oblivious to the subtle currents shifting beneath his feet. Yet, in the kitchen, a few staff members exchanged worried glances. Quiet murmurs had begun to circulate, whispers of a corporate shakeup, a new owner taking over soon. One young server nervously scrolled through a news app on his phone, a furrow in his brow. Another shrugged, dismissing it as just gossip. But the unease was a subtle undercurrent, a discordant note in Antoine's self-congratulatory symphony, a storm brewing that he was too arrogant to see. The next late morning, the tranquility of Vance Vineyard was abruptly shattered. Two sleek, black SUVs, polished to a mirror sheen, glided silently up the main drive, pulling to a halt before the grand entrance of the house. The doors opened with a soft thud. Out stepped Mr. Davies, followed by his legal team, all impeccably dressed in sharp, dark suits, their expressions unreadable but determined. They were figures of quiet, undeniable power. Chef Antoine Dubois, who had been preening by the entrance, about to offer a dismissive greeting, watched in bewilderment as they bypassed him entirely. Their eyes were fixed on a figure standing calmly by the main house, a woman dressed simply, yet radiating an undeniable presence. They walked directly to Adara Vance, their footsteps purposeful, their intent clear. Antoine's smug smile vanished, his jaw slowly slackening in confusion and dawning horror. The main hall of the Vance Vineyard house, moments later, buzzed with a tense, bewildered energy. Staff members, drawn by the sudden arrival, exchanged confused glances. A few curious customers lingered, sensing the shift in atmosphere. Mr. Davies reached Adara, his face respectful, his voice clear and resonant, cutting through the murmurs. "Ms. Vance," he stated, his tone conveying profound deference, "we've arrived." The ownership transfer documents are ready for your signature, and the termination papers for current management are prepared as well, as per your instruction. A collective gasp swept through the staff. Antoine Dubois, standing a few feet away, felt the blood drain from his face. "Miss Vance?" The words echoed in his ears, followed by termination papers. His eyes darted to Adara, then to the imposing legal team, then back to Adara, a dawning terror replacing his arrogance. Adara met his gaze, a calm, knowing smile gracing her lips, a silent triumph in her eyes. The main hall of Vance Vineyard was a tableau of frozen disbelief. Mr. Davis's words hung in the air, a bell tolling for Chef Antoine Dubois. Antoine's face, usually flushed with self-importance, was now a pale mask of shock. His eyes darted between the impeccably dressed legal team and Adara, who stood with an almost regal stillness. "Ms. Vance," he stammered, his voice cracking. You're the inheritor? The owner?" He couldn't reconcile the woman in sensible work clothes, the one he'd ordered around, with the powerful figure before him. Adara turned to him, her expression calm, her gaze unwavering as she met his panicked eyes. "Yes, Antoine, I am. And after how you've treated me in my own vineyard, I see no reason for you to continue your management here." Her voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of generations, sealing his fate with an understated finality. Mr. Davies, ever efficient, wasted no time. He stepped forward to the grand counter, transforming it into a makeshift legal office. With practiced movements, he laid out a stack of documents: the official ownership transfer, the termination clause for current management, and a series of non-disclosure agreements. The crisp rustle of papers was the only sound in the hushed hall. Adara approached the counter. Her movements were deliberate, each action imbued with a quiet power. She picked up the pen, her hand steady, and with a series of confident strokes, signed her name. Vance Vineyard was unequivocally hers. The legal team watched, their faces solemn, as the ink dried, officially claiming her legacy and sealing Antoine's fate. The process was swift, undeniable, and utterly devastating for the man who had so carelessly disrespected her. Antoine's carefully constructed world was crumbling. He lurched forward, his earlier arrogance replaced by raw, desperate fear. "Ms. Vance, please," he pleaded, his voice shaking on the verge of tears. "It was a misunderstanding. I didn't know. The vineyard needs me, my reputation. What about my Michelin stars?" He reached out a hand, a pathetic gesture of appeal. Adara remained unmoved, a picture of unyielding resolve. She watched him, her gaze unwavering, not with anger, but with a quiet, discerning judgment. There was no pity in her eyes, only the clear understanding of a man who had brought his own downfall upon himself through his own prejudice and pride. His frantic begging echoed in the silent hall, a stark testament to his hypocrisy. Adara's voice cut through Antoine's pleas, calm and resonant. "You should have thought of that before you judged me," she stated, her words carrying the full weight of the moral lesson. "Respect is something you show everyone, Antoine, not just the people you think can afford it, or who fit your narrow idea of class." She paused, letting her words sink in, a truth he could no longer deny. With that, she turned back to the counter, and, with a final, decisive flourish, signed the last document, a tangible symbol of his complete and utter dismissal. Antoine watched, his face drained of color, as his career, his standing, and his entire future at Vance Vineyard crumbled under the unwavering resolve of the woman he had treated like a common laborer. The confrontation was over. Two members of the legal team, polite but firm, stepped forward to escort Antoine out. He was handed a small, pathetic box containing a few personal effects. The grand entrance, where he had arrived with such pomp and circumstance, now served as the backdrop for his ignominious exit. His luxury car, the symbol of his inflated status, was quietly driven away by a junior staff member, leaving him stranded. Antoine, head bowed in shame, was led past the stunned vineyard staff, who watched in silence, their faces a mix of shock and quiet satisfaction. The man who had strutted in like a king now shuffled out, a broken figure, his arrogance having paved the way for his complete humiliation. A palpable sense of relief swept through the main hall after Antoine's departure. Adara stepped forward, addressing the hushed staff. Her voice, though soft, filled the space with warmth and genuine leadership. "Vance Vineyard is more than just grapes and wine," she began, a small, hopeful smile gracing her lips. "It's a legacy, a community. We will restore its soul, valuing every hand that touches this soil, every person who contributes to its future." She spoke of fair practices, sustainable growth, and a true family spirit. Tentative applause began, then swelled, as the staff who had endured Antoine's disdain recognized a new era of respect and authentic leadership. A breath of fresh air had indeed swept through the vineyard. The news, as it always does, traveled fast. In the local coffee shop, customers buzzed with excited whispers about the scandal at Vance Vineyard, the arrogant chef, the field worker who turned out to be the true owner. At the farmers' market, vendors exchanged knowing glances, a collective vindication washing over them. Online, social media lit up with stories and comments, praising Adara's quiet power and condemning Antoine's blatant prejudice. The incident quickly became the talk of the town, a cautionary tale spreading like wildfire. The community, having witnessed the dramatic irony unfold, celebrated the downfall of hubris and the triumph of true worth, ensuring Antoine's reputation was irrevocably tarnished. The Grand Restaurant at Vance Vineyard, once a beacon of Chef Antoine Dubois' self-proclaimed genius, now stood as a monument to his absence. Stripped of his flashy innovations and the expensive, often ill-suited ingredients he had championed, the space felt hollow. The crisp, white tablecloths remained, but the buzz, the laughter, the clinking of glasses, it had all vanished. Suppliers who had once flocked to Antoine's name quickly pulled out when his reputation soured. The reservation books, once filled months in advance, now lay open to empty pages, gathering dust like forgotten memories. The vibrant energy Antoine had brought, a superficial veneer over true substance, had dissolved, leaving behind a shell, a ghost of arrogance and poor judgment. In a dimly lit apartment, far from the sun-drenched vineyard, Antoine Dubois huddled over his phone, the screen casting a sickly blue glow on his face. His once impeccably coiffed hair was disheveled, his eyes bloodshot. He scrolled through a scathing online review, each word a fresh cut. Vance Vineyard's new direction brings a welcome return to authenticity. It read, a stark contrast to the pretentious, character-deficient leadership that recently plagued its kitchen. Chef Dubois' departure, following his reported racist outburst, has purged the establishment of an arrogance that overshadowed any culinary talent he may have possessed. The article openly referenced the incident, a permanent stain on his once lustrous career. As if on cue, his phone vibrated again, another rejection email, another door slammed shut. His career, once a soaring star, was plummeting into a black hole of his own making. The rejections came in a relentless torrent. Emails from prestigious restaurants, each a polite but firm dismissal. While your resume is impressive, one read, we're seeking a chef with a stronger cultural fit. Another, more direct, cited reputation concerns. A montage of these sterile, corporate messages painted a grim picture. Antoine Dubois was blacklisted. His Michelin stars, once his armor, had become a target. Humiliated, with rent due and options dwindling, the celebrated chef found himself applying for a line cook position at a nondescript bistro, a stark, painful contrast to the gleaming, high-end kitchens he once commanded. His pride, once as grand as his culinary ambitions, was utterly shattered. Meanwhile, at Vance Vineyard, a different kind of energy bloomed. Adara Vance, hands-on and visionary, moved with a quiet purpose that resonated through every vine and every staff member. In the revitalized main hall, she led team meetings, not from a pedestal, but from the heart of a collaborative circle. Discussions weren't about flashy trends, but about organic farming methods, sustainable practices, and crucially, fair wages for every hand that touched the soil. The restaurant, now overseen by Adara, embraced its roots, reintroducing traditional, seasonal recipes that celebrated the local bounty. She empowered her staff, listening to their ideas, valuing their experience, and fostering a sense of shared purpose that Antoine's ego could never have conceived. Under her leadership, the vineyard wasn't just recovering, it was truly thriving, growing from the inside out with integrity and respect. The fruits of Adara's vision ripened beautifully. culminating in Vance Vineyard's first annual harvest festival under her full ownership. The sprawling grounds buzzed with joyous activity, attracting families and tourists from across the region and beyond. Laughter mingled with the scent of freshly pressed grapes and local delicacies. Children chased each other through the rows of vines, while adults sipped wine and listened to live music. Adara, moving gracefully through the crowd, mingled with guests, sharing stories of the land, her family's legacy, and the deep connection between the soil and the spirit. Her warmth and authentic passion were infectious, drawing people in, not with superficial glamour, but with genuine hospitality and a profound sense of belonging. The vineyard had become more than a business. It was a vibrant community hub, a testament to the power of true connection. In the beautifully restored old house, Adara stood before a gathering of her loyal staff and community elders. With a gentle smile, she unveiled a new, elegantly carved plaque. It bore the name of Adara Vance, her grandfather, and spoke not just of his founding of the vineyard, but of his enduring values: stewardship of the land, integrity in practice, and respect for all. Adara's voice, calm and resonant, spoke of how she didn't merely reclaim a parcel of land. She honored a spirit, a philosophy that had been temporarily overshadowed. This vineyard, she declared, would forever stand as a living embodiment of Adara's wisdom, a place where every person, every vine, and every vintage was cherished. Her dedication was a promise, not just to her family, but to the entire community. As the sun dipped below the rolling hills of Vance Vineyard, casting long, golden shadows across the thriving landscape, Adara stood quietly, overseeing her domain. She didn't just teach Antoine a personal lesson. She taught the entire community one: prejudice, arrogance, and the dismissal of another's worth. These things have a cost, and sometimes that cost is everything. Respect, however, is truly the richest harvest. It nourishes the soul, builds community, and ensures that the fruits of your labor are not just abundant, but also sweet and enduring. This was the legacy Adara Vance was building, rooted in the very soil her grandfather had nurtured and blossoming for generations to come. Years later, the Vance Vineyard was not merely a thriving business. It was a beacon. Adara Vance, the quiet woman once mistaken for a laborer, had transformed her ancestral land into an internationally acclaimed estate. Its wines consistently earned top honors, celebrated not just for their exquisite taste, but for the ethical and sustainable practices woven into every vine. Adara herself had become a respected luminary in the viticulture world, her thoughtful face gracing the covers of prestigious magazines like Wine and Earth and Modern Vintner, lauded for her innovative, yet deeply traditional approach to winemaking. The vineyard, under her steadfast hand, buzzed with a contented energy, new eco-friendly structures blending seamlessly with the ancient landscape, a testament to growth rooted in respect. Adara's influence extended beyond the rich soil of her vineyard. Within a sunlit classroom nestled among the vines, she now mentored a diverse cohort of young apprentices. Her hands, still bearing the faint stains of earth, moved with a seasoned grace as she demonstrated pruning techniques, her voice calm and articulate. "Respect the land," she would say, "and respect each other. The finest wine, like the strongest community, is built on integrity and hard work." She imparted not just practical skills in viticulture and enology, but invaluable life lessons, shaping a new generation of ethical vintners who understood that the soul of a vineyard lay in its values, not just its yield. Meanwhile, in a distant, anonymous city, Chef Antoine Dubois was a forgotten whisper. The once celebrated culinary star now toiled in a rundown kitchen, his hands, once accustomed to delicate garnishes, performing menial prep work for a chain restaurant. His haughty pronouncements had been replaced by the dull clatter of pots and pans. Unrecognized and uncelebrated, he occasionally caught a glimpse of a food magazine in a convenience store, seeing articles about flourishing vineyards and respected restaurateurs. A flicker of regret, quickly extinguished, would cross his older, defeated face. The empire he once imagined had crumbled, leaving him with nothing but the bitter taste of his own arrogance. The lesson, however, had rooted itself deeply in the local community around Vance Vineyard. At the bustling weekend market, a young, eager new vendor, full of youthful zeal, tried to dismiss an elderly customer's request. But an older, wiser stall owner quickly interjected, a knowing look in his eye. "Remember what happened at Vance Vineyard, young one? Respect, always. The story of Adara Vance and Chef Antoine Dubois had become a local legend, a cautionary tale whispered between generations. It was a stark reminder that true worth was never about outward appearances or inflated titles, but about the inherent dignity of every individual. Adara's voice, once quiet and underestimated, now resonated on global stages. At an international conference on sustainable viticulture, she delivered a keynote speech, her presence commanding attention. She spoke eloquently, not just of grape varietals and soil composition, but of the profound values that made a business truly fruitful. Integrity, she declared, respect for the land, and unwavering commitment to community are the true pillars of lasting success. Her image, projected on massive screens, inspired countless others, proving that authentic leadership, born from the soil and nurtured with principle, could indeed change the world. Yet, despite her international acclaim and the vineyard's soaring reputation, Adara Vance remained utterly, beautifully grounded. Dressed simply in practical work clothes, she would often be found among her vines, her hands once again in the rich earth, just as she had been years ago. She felt the soil, examined the leaves, a serene smile gracing her lips. This was her true sanctuary, her constant reminder. True power, she knew, came not from what you possessed, but from what you respected and nurtured. Her journey had come full circle, a testament to the enduring strength found in humility and devotion. So remember, never judge a book by its cover. The person you look down on today, the one you deem unworthy based on superficial glances or outdated prejudices, might just be the one who owns the very ground you stand on tomorrow. Prejudice has a cost, and sometimes that cost is everything. Respect, true, universal respect, is not just a virtue, it is the richest, most enduring harvest of all. If you're enjoying this video and the powerful stories of justice served, then hit that like button and comment where you're watching from. I'd love to know how far this message goes. And make sure to subscribe for more compelling stories where integrity triumphs and justice comes full circle. Don't miss out on another inspiring journey. As the sun crests the horizon, casting golden light over Vance Vineyard, the air hums with a quiet majesty. This isn't just a place where grapes grow. It's a testament, a living monument to Adara Vance's quiet strength and unwavering integrity. Her journey, from overlooked worker to undeniable owner, resonates through every vine, every bottle, every respectful exchange between staff. Her vineyard stands not merely as a successful business, but as a vibrant, breathing symbol of justice served and the profound power of respect. It shows that true legacy isn't built on fleeting trends or fleeting fame, but on enduring values. A hand, stained with rich earth, gently traces the curve of a burgeoning vine. It is a hand that knows the land, a hand that nurtures, a hand that commands respect not through title, but through unwavering dedication. Adara Vance proved that true worth isn't found in a designer suit or a Michelin star, but in the hands that toil, the mind that strategizes, and the heart that respects all. She showed the world that superficial judgments crumble before genuine substance. The real power, the enduring influence, comes from intrinsic worth, not from outward, often deceptive, appearances. Imagine a world where every person, regardless of their attire, their background, or their perceived status, is treated with the inherent respect they deserve. A world where judgment is replaced by understanding and arrogance by humility. Adara Vance didn't just reclaim her vineyard, she offered a blueprint for that world. Her story whispers a hopeful vision, inspiring us to see beyond the surface, to value the unseen labor, the quiet wisdom, and the dignity in every soul. It's a call to action, unspoken but profound, for a more equitable future. At the heart of Vance Vineyard stands a majestic, ancient oak, its roots plunging deep into the earth, unyielding and strong. Like that tree, the roots of truth run deep, anchoring us to what truly matters. And the harvest of justice, though sometimes slow in coming, is always abundant. It may take time for the seeds of disrespect to wither, and for the blossoms of integrity to fully bloom, but Adara's story is a powerful reminder that the universe has a way of balancing the scales. True justice, like a fine vintage, only grows richer with time. Thank you for watching.